we were talking about whether or not security guards should qualify at 25 yards and beyond. So my personal opinion and conjecture is that private security does not have enough established training at the state level to where there is enough conversation around use of force, rules of engagement, understanding when to deploy a lethal encounter at that distance. And then on the other side of the equation is that security guards that I know, and this is, the vast majority of security guards that follow this channel, they don't have access to or the finances to go to the to go to the range and train adequately enough to take a safe shot at 25 yards. However, the state is mandating for a lot of these private security entities in different states. I think here for Oregon, it might be 15, maybe 20 yards. But my conjecture is that if you're having people shoot at that distance for qualification, you're reinforcing that that's the shot that you want them to take. And I don't think that there's enough established training for security guards to be taking that shot. And I know personally, working in a grocery store, that's an issue where, you have, at any given time in the store, you might have 500, 600 people. So taking a shot at 25 yards, 75 feet where people are going to be running and panicking, and then you have backstop issues. Is that something that we should be doing? So my question to you, as someone who's in the law enforcement community, and you've often talked about security guards understanding their role, knowing what they should be involved in, what they shouldn't be involved in. Do you think that it's applicable for security guards to be qualifying at something like 25 yards?
I do. I've been a firearms instructor for years, and I think 25 yards qualification for anybody that's carrying in that capacity when it comes, because we all know law enforcement and security carry in the same capacity. If you're carrying a gun and a uniform, you're carrying it in the capacity of a law enforcement officer, vice versa, right? I think that 25 yards is something that people need to be comfortable with taking a shot. If so, really, when you say 75 yards, it does seem like it's long.
75 feet.
I'm sorry, 75 feet. It does seem like it's long. But when it comes down to the yardage of 25, you should be able to hit that silhouette carrying that firearm when it comes down to it, because not only will you get to a point of trying to defend somebody else, but you might have to defend yourself at 25 yards, right? Okay. So that needs to be something that you would be. Personally, I feel like I want to be able to defend myself at the yardage, at any yardage that gun is capable of shooting, right? So I do practice at 60 yards. I do practice at 80 yards with my handgun, yes. And I practice on steel, and it's just a torso silhouette. And as long as I hear the ding, I know I'm on target, right? And I understand the financial burden that a lot of people have when it comes to getting to the range and all that stuff. And that's why my department, we pay for our guys' range memberships and make sure we give them the ammunition to go. Now it's up to them to go, but They don't have to pay any money to go, right? So I understand that, but we also have to take accountability that we are carrying in a certain capacity to where that is a likely situation you may find yourself in, especially working at a supermarket or something like that, because these aisles are almost at 25 yards. A lot of the aisles that you go in a supermarket are at 25 yards. So yes, you need to be proficient at shooting a gun at 25 yards.
Do you think that with that there needs to be an enhanced level of training? Because I want to show a video. I want to show a video. This is from 2021, and you'll remember the situation when I bring it up. It's the Burlington Coat Factory shooting. I think it happened in either California or Arizona. And so this is a police officer that is addressing a subject. What had happened in the story was there is a guy that comes into a Target, mentally ill. He's got all the signs. He comes in, he's messing around, he's loitering, he's dancing. I mean, like literally stuff that I see on a daily basis. He's got a bicycle, and the security guards, they interact with him, but you can tell that they're just not really wanting to get too involved. He ultimately takes a bike lock and chain off of the bike and then goes through the store and starts hitting people in the head. I mean, violently hitting people in the head. So they call the police. The police show up. The news story that I'm going to show, let me make sure I give proper credit here so I don't get in trouble here. Hang on. The news story that I'm going to show is coming out of Fox 11 Los Angeles. And unfortunately, in this body cam, it's pretty short. The longer body cam footage, it shows the quickness at which the police officer that's responding with the AR, how fast and excited he comes through the group. The entire group of officers are moving into the location to address the subject. I don't know if this person that takes the shot is a sergeant or if he's in some sort of command, but he is literally moving past people in order to get to the front to take the shot. And you hear people behind him saying, slow down, slow down. And I don't think that what they're telling him is slow down in terms of how fast he's moving. They're telling him to slow down in terms of thinking about what you're doing.
Right.
And the unfortunate thing is that when he takes this shot, which I think is maybe at about 20, 25 feet, I'll let you make the decision on that. He over penetrates the backstop, and there's a young 14-year-old girl that is trying on a prom dress, and she loses her life. And so for me, when I talk about security guards not taking that shot at 25 yards, when I look at a grocery store, you're right. The aisle is about 75 feet, but behind that aisle, and I put up a picture in our community tab the other day, that back wall houses, stock rooms, storerooms, warehousing areas, the cold case, the cooler, the dairy area, the back part of the meat department. And so short of there being more training in terms of security guards understanding that, I mean, we're talking the basic 4 firearm safety rules, but you're going to see in this video that a seasoned police officer doesn't think about the 4 firearm safety rules.
So that's the thing about it, though. It doesn't matter what yardage you're at. If it's going to over penetrate, it's going to over penetrate, right? So you're shooting an AR-15, like an AR-15 will over penetrate probably at 75 yards.
Okay.
Right. So that's like something that you really can't, cannot say if it will. Now, there are some bullets that will help stop that from happening as much. But if they're not using those bullets, but just like a 9mm could over penetrate at 25 yards. A 9mm will penetrate at 10 yards. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it is one of those things you always want to keep in mind when it comes down to over penetration. But I'm more scared of somebody missing at 25 yards than hitting somebody and then going through them. Right. Yeah. So that's my main concern when it comes down to shooting at 25 yards.
Let's pull up the story here. Here we go.
Okay.
Tonight, we are getting another look at dramatic body camera video released by the LAPD. It shows the moment an officer opened fire inside a North Hollywood Burlington store, accidentally killing an innocent teenage girl. We do need to warn you, this video is intense.
Hey, she's bleeding. She's bleeding.
Police responded to a call of a man assaulting people at the store last Thursday. Officers encountered that suspect upstairs, and one of them opened fire. The suspect, 24-year-old Daniel Lopez, was killed, but so was 14-year-old Valentina Oriana Peralta. A bullet came through the wall and struck her as she was there in a dressing room. Community activists say the shooting never should have happened.
At the moment that the shots were fired, there was no imminent threat to anybody. That Daniel Lopez was a clear 20 feet or more away from any other person in sight.
The parents of that teenage girl are holding a press conference tomorrow. LAPD Chief Michael Moore has promised a thorough, complete, and transparent investigation.
You know, Diesel, my biggest concern is that for security guards, we don't have a union. We don't have qualified immunity. You know, in a situation like this where all things considered, the guard, let's just put a guard in the situation other than a cop. All things being considered, the guard doing the right thing, taking that shot, and that being the response, that being the situation. Once the cameras start rolling, once the parents are out in front of the cameras, once the people are demanding accountability, there's no safety net for the security guard. And so where I understand the importance of being able to take that shot, and I advocate for that. I advocate for all of us in a EDC defensive mindset, sheepdog protector of ourselves and our family. I advocate for us to be able to do that. I train well beyond 25 yards, right? But I think it's difficult for people to think about the capacity in which we work and not look at that from a realistic standpoint, because if this was a security guard in the same situation, where does he get the defense from? Because the company's going to cut you. They're going to say, hey, you didn't have to take that shot because as a security guard, you have no duty to act. You were 30 feet away from the guy. You could have just started directing people outside of the store. We're going to go ahead and cut ties with you. And so I look at that in my situation and it's like, hey, we're going to need to put your house up for collateral so that we can defend you. You know what I mean? Like, even if I'm found to have done the right thing. So, I understand the importance of it, but that's why I asked you, because you had said before, you're like, look, we need you guys to do a specific role. We don't need you guys to do the cop stuff. We'll come, we'll get there, we'll do the cop stuff. And that might mean that leaves a little bit of a gap in time for response. And I understand where a lot of security guards go, hey man, like, what are you talking about? We're there, we're armed, we should be the response. But people have to look at the reality of this. And in today's day and age, you do the right thing, you take out the perpetrator, but you kill a 14-year-old. Now you're in a situation where this is what you're dealing with for the next 5 years, and you have no backing. Like, what do you think about that?
So I don't know if it's there or if y'all have this or not, but we have what we call the Good Samaritan law, and security officers fall under the Good Samaritan law. And this would be probably one of those things that will fall under the Good Samaritan law because it wasn't intentional, right? Even though the security officer was acting to save the life of someone else and took an innocent life, it still wasn't intentional, right? So I think the Good Samaritan law would play with a security officer here in North Carolina. Okay. Now, when it comes to this, is what I tell my guys all the time. We might have qualified immunity, but you don't know how it feels to take a life, right? So qualified immunity don't mean nothing when it's in your head. You dream about it. It's something that you think about all the time, right? It's something that comes up out of nowhere that you think about. You see that person's face. You hear the last breath that they took. Like it is. Nobody knows what it is to take a life, right? So qualified immunity is not having qualified immunity or having it is the least of my worries, right? When it comes down to it. I think that when it comes down to a security officer, you have to know the risks. You know what I'm saying? So even though you may not have that qualified immunity or you may not have that Good Samaritan law, you still know the risk of being a security officer, just like a police officer. You know the risk, you know what you're getting into. Though that's one of the things you need to think about as being a security officer, right? Because you never know what may happen. There may be some kind of program, insurance or something like that you can get to help you when it comes, if it comes down to a situation like that. And that might be something to look into because, they have the concealed carry insurance that people can get here in North Carolina that helps you with some of those things. And I tell all my officers, you have a concealed carry and you're carrying outside your jurisdiction, you're not covered. You're just like a regular citizen, right? So you need to get some kind of insurance if you're going to be carrying that firearm.
Yeah, absolutely.